Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. You're watching Splash Pages, powered by the Dorkening Podcast Network. We have an awesome show scheduled for you, as always. My name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard. And I see you there, Drew.
I wasn't doing anything. It's just you say the same thing every show. It's really easy to pantomime.
Well, I mean, you say the same thing, then you don't fuck it up as much, you know?
Sure. Oh, I'm Drew. And hold on, let me just... Hi, I'm Drew. I'm also working with Leo. I'm not behind the keyboard, but I'm one of the people here on Splash Pages. We got a great show lined up for us, and we got a great creator here for us. He's an illustrator. He's a really chill guy, you know, all around general nerd, you know, just smiles aplenty, aka aka the Daywalker himself, Mr. Frankie Washington.
Man, with an introduction like that, come on now.
Yeah.
They pulled me into the night. They pulled me in. Trying to get my beauty sleep over here. What are you guys doing?
Listen, it's fine. Listen, coffee is made for exactly these kind of purposes. So
you know what we should do? We should do the remember the what's that?
You just scary movie that shit. Yo, Duke, pick up the phone. Hello.
What's that?
Right, hey, pick up the phone. What? And just what are you doing, man? Nothing. Just chilling. Killing.
Oh,
true.
Oh man.
Awesome. Rich is going to be joining us shortly. He's
behind.
All right.
But this is going to be a fun discussion. You know, you guys had some awesome discussion while I stepped away for a second. I came back. You're talking about video games and
I know.
And like,
well, I mean, you know, we were just talking because he was going on and about something, and I completely have forgotten it because I'm exhausted. But it was.
Well, I think we were talking. We were saying we were talking about video games. You were talking how like you had Atari 2600, but I was talking about like for me gaming was the experience of going to an arcade.
Right.
Like that's what I experienced. Like it was like going to the arcade, wasting your money, putting the quarters in, hanging with your friends, your buddies, seeing the girls and stuff like that. And just that whole, whatever that whole experience was, that's what I remember. I held on, you know, I eventually did have an Atari 2600. Also, I think I had a ColecoVision and also Nintendo. But it was a different kind of experience, like being at home. Even when I was hanging with my friends, it was such a small number that for me, I missed that thing, just the group going into this massive place and you just hear sound, people, just insanity all around you. And games.
Also, the graphics in the arcade back then was like your home system couldn't even touch it until so I used to work in video games a long time ago, and it was not until the Neo Geo came out. And then you had the actual arcade in your home. But I mean,
God, I remember Pong. I remember having Pong. Remember, like it was like a controller, this massive. And I was like, thinking. I thought that was the greatest thing ever, man.
Well, but you know, and then like I was saying earlier, you know, now you can experience it to some extent, but it's not the same. You know, you can go to like Dave and Buster's. You can go to places like Barcade, which are made specifically for that nostalgia. And
but it's a different nostalgia, though. It's like you go to play, like I love Galaga. You know, you go to play Galaga in Dave and Buster's. It's not the same, you know.
Leo, I'm not justifying it. What I'm just saying is that's the closest people can get, but it's not the same. Like I remember when I was a kid, I went to a birthday party at an arcade, and me and my friends, we were committed to just, and I was so mad because the real Ghostbusters was not working that day. And as a Ghostbusters fan, I'm pissed.
Hey, what's going on, Rich?
Hey, Rich. we were committed to playing it was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
Yeah, I remember
as
that.
far through as we could get, and we took down Shredder, Krang, the Triceratons, like all this, and eventually we were just like, okay, that's it. That's too many foot ninjas, way too many Ultrons. That's it. We're done.
But
we're moving somewhere else. We got like 25 minutes. Let's get nuts.
But could you have imagined that video games would be to the level that they are today? Like in my mind, I never could have, because I was into comics. So for me, comics were like, oh man, they were the greatest things ever. But never in my mind, I looked at an arcade video game going, oh yeah, at one point in time, video games going to be where people can make $millions on, and they'd be these massive tournaments. I never could have foresaw that.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with superhero movies. I mean, you know, back in the day, you know, Superman, Batman, you know, those were such gambles because people are like, a superhero movie? Like what?
Nicholas Hammond as Spider-Man on TV, dude. That was a great moment for me. I was like, oh my God, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, the old Doctor Strange TV movie. I'm taking it back, man.
The 70s one?
Say it again?
Yeah.
The 1970s movie?
Of course, yes, yes.
Oh,
Red Brown as Captain America with the plastic shield.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed all that. I grew up on all that.
Yes, I mean, if we're gonna do that, then we got to also mention Roger Corman's horribly faded Fantastic Four.
They tried. Come on, they tried though. Yeah, that was the thing. My heart goes out to that. But they tried to do on a budget, like what was it, $4 million? I think. Was it $4 million?
It was probably more like that high. Let's be real here. It's probably Roger Corman. It's probably about $1 million.
Probably, yeah, it might have been $1 million. Could have been back then. I think $4 million might have been too high for all the real.
You know, it's there. You know, Leo. You know, Leo, I want to say this. I never liked you. And I always thought you were short.
The real Ghostbusters.
Okay.
No, I was going to say that. So the, what the hell is the name of the place? It's up in New Hampshire. They tout themselves as like the world's largest arcade.
Yeah, Leo, I have all the time in the world and all the gas money to just drive to New Hampshire. You know, I'm just gonna get my little car and I'm gonna Mario Kart it the way, you know, just star power, gas.
Well, if you ever vacation up there, Drew, now you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't have the budget to vacation. People assume just because I'm from Westchester, I've got already a summer home in the Hamptons.
I get it, man. I get it. The funds. They used to have the Words and Pictures Museum up in New Hampshire, wasn't it? Or was it Vermont? No, New Hampshire. Vermont. Yeah, that was a nice place, man. That was a real nice place.
It's called Fun Spot.
Now, speaking, Frankie, of taking comics up another notch. Now, I'm certainly aware that you had a project where you worked with Universal on both the Hulk and the Doctor Doom ride. And from what at least from what I read,
the rarity.
you had some interaction or some input on the project where I guess it was the video before you got on the rides. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was for this company. It's closed now. It was an animation studio called Olive Jar Animation. They used to be located in Brighton. Olive Jar Animation did a ton of stuff. They might have done some stuff for MTV back in the day. Remember Liquid TV or that Liquid whatever? Yeah. Well, I think they did stuff like that, but they also did TV commercials. And some other stuff, some other animation stuff, a lot of stop motion, but also they did 2D animation. And then so when it came on, when they brought me on, I was freelance. They brought me on to do storyboards and some concept work, but also, you know, I was doing just illustrations. Like I remember one of the gigs I did was a commercial for a fruit by roll up. Yeah, and it was like they were like, Frank, and they said, Frank, we need you to draw a bear, and it's a campground, and you know, and then these kids are sitting in the campground. We need you to draw that all out. And I was like, okay, and I just drew it. They took my picture. A couple of I think a day or so later, they came back with like a diorama, like someone had literally did a clay diorama of everything, how it would actually do. And I was like, ooh. You know, and then I would go into the set sometime and see them how they built the sets and everything. But yeah, so anyway, for the Universal job, that was one of my last jobs, I think, with Olive Jar at that point. It was they asked a bunch of people. They were like, okay, we want you to draw different things. So I remember drawing some versions of the Hulk, and then also they had me drawing mostly vehicles and things like that were going to be in it and stuff. So they had everyone drawing different things, but then they brought me in and they had me drawing Zeppelins and all kind of crazy stuff. I remember I had to sign an NDA from Universal. I remember that. Of
course.
But overall, it was just like, I was just some person that they brought in among some of the other animators and stuff, just drawing a lot of concept stuff. And then
did you get to have like a viewing at the house where you showed the finished video and you're like, that's mine, and that's mine? No,
I think they had the video. I think they had the video there, and we saw it there. I never got a copy.
Oh no!
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of bummed. Because I remember there was some other stuff that I'd done some work for, and I never got to see
the finished product.
Well, get an actual copy of it. Like I remember doing this. They had me watching Akira, which I loved. I was like, cool, but they wanted me to sort of emulate the city scene when Akira comes on, and it looked like a mountain from far away, but then you come up close and it's a city. Well, I had to sort of draw something to emulate that because it was for a Doritos ad. I think it was a Doritos ad that was going to air in Asia, and so they were doing stop motion. I remember that, and they said, "Okay, Frank, we need you to draw the city, and then we need you also to draw like the Mecca, like it was going to be like this construction site, and it was going to have this sort of weird Mecca kind of device that's a building construction device." Right. So I had to draw that, and I think that was it. And so what happened was I drew some images and stuff. They took my images, blew them up on like massive plexiglasses, die cutted them. Yeah, so like that was the thing that I loved the most working at Olive Jar for the time that I did, was that I got to see my artwork from 2D be transformed into another form. Right. By these amazing artisans who would just be like, okay, for that particular one, it was like they took my stuff, die cutted it, blew it up. I went on a shooting set, and then they had already built the figures and stuff, and so they were shooting light through it. So it was almost like it gave the effect of Akira. It was all layered out.
Oh wow!
And it was mind blowing. So I would see my work being done by other people, and I would just hang back. And then of course I did storyboarding and stuff, which I love. I love sequential art.
Right.
Nice. Very cool.
So that was that my foray into with animation. It was for a little bit. I think I was with them. I just come from out from doing some film stuff. I worked on 2 films that were in Massachusetts. One was Next Stop Wonderland. That was the big one that made it nationally, and then the other one was one called Squeeze. The first one was Squeeze, about some 3 kids in Dorchester, and then the second one was Next Stop Wonderland with Brad Bird, the director. And I remember being on the blue line with Brad Bird, where he was just like walking me through the scenes and stuff. And and people like staring at us while I got my sketch pad out. And he's like, okay, Frank, all right, I need you to draw this scene where the such and such protagonist, the lady's being pushed around. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm just drawing like a madman while he's talking to me. And I'm just like, like a transcriptionist or something at the time. So that was pretty cool. And then after that, that's when I did animation. And then after animation, I found my way into advertising. That was the big time. That was in the big time play. That was like big time. Like mom and pop, like, okay, kid, can you draw this stuff? And you'll get paid, but you gotta, crush deadlines and make sure stuff looks nice. And I learned a lot from advertising.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, yeah, that too.
Pretty much. So Frankie, you worked on Hulk, so I mean, definitely you had some Marvel knowledge. So what, in terms of comics, what were your faves? Like, what were you reading when you were growing up?
Well, as a kid, I mean, for me, I've always been a huge fan of giant robots. I love giant robots and I love giant monsters. I love the monsters overall. I mean, the Universal monsters, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man. We just finished watching Invisible Man the other day. Claude Rains, Claude Rains, and the classics. But also, I love giant creatures. I just started from dinosaurs and then working my way up to Godzilla.
Frankie, since you live in that era, which of the Shogun Warriors did you have?
I think my mom got me Mazinger. Yes, I believe it was. No, sorry. No, I had Raideen at the time. My mom got me Radine, and I remember getting the Godzilla. I had the Godzilla Shogun Warrior, which as a kid, who knew? I destroyed him. Because, well, here you go. I always tell this story because you're a kid, man, and I was one of those kids where I did some crazy stuff. So what happened was I remember my mom got him, and I was shot his fist off, and I was like, oh man, he's not like Godzilla. So I took a lighter, and because he had the tongue that could sort of shoot out, and I lit
you lit it up.
I was like, yes, and I destroyed my toy. I destroyed it.
It happened.
Because he wasn't like the Godzilla on TV. So I lit that up and destroyed him. And I don't know whatever happened to Radine. And then I had the smaller figures as well, the diecast. The diecast metal ones I loved because they were metal. And I was like, this is a real robot. This isn't plastic. This is a real robot. So yeah. Yeah. If I could go back in time to that young Frankie, I would be like, dude, don't
light my toy on fire.
Yeah, put it down. Box somewhere or something. Yeah, I would have shown.
Definitely find that shooting fist wherever it went.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I loved them, but it was more like I used to watch Creature Double Feature on WOVI 56. I grew up in Boston, and so Creature Double Feature, Godzilla, Gamera, Johnny Sofko and his flying robot. Force 5 came on. That changed my life. It was anything that was into that. And then so when Marvel Comics released the Shogun Warriors, that was like another thing. Because I was reading comics. I think my very first comic was a Spider-Man. I got it was like this small little store. Some guy had converted like a school bus into a store down my street. And I remember going in, and there was a spinner rack. I was like, and then I saw Spider-Man. I saw a Spider-Man comic, and I picked it up. And I was like, ooh. And I grabbed that, brought it home, tracing it, doing, the classic story. You hear people. I always drew when I was a kid. And my mom would come home with paper bags from groceries and be like, Rip, here you go, draw something. And I would just draw. So seeing that Spider-Man book was the first start. I would say that my very first comic. But then after that, when I saw the Shogun Warriors, my mom took me to Child World in Dedham, Mass. Going into Child World. All of a sudden, there's a massive rack. And then the first book's coming, staring at me is like Shogun Warriors. That picture of the Radine standing there, I was like, whoo. I want that, Ma. And then she got that for me. And I was like, oh my God. I remember staring at it for hours because I couldn't believe that Marvel Comics was doing something that I loved. That was the thing. It was like, there was the Hulk, and I love the Hulk. I love the Fantastic Four. I love all those other characters. But seeing something that I really, really was into, like Creature Double Feature, the giant robots and mech, and super robots and Godzilla, that stuff. And then Godzilla came out, and then it was just like, okay, you got me. Nice. So it was a possibility that I could do that in the future. That was my whole point. Like, it was just like, oh my God, I could do. They actually will. Somebody may be able to do more stuff like this, in the future.
I love seeing that you're still excited about it.
Oh yeah.
There are artists that at this point I'm sure you've run into that are like, it's just a job. But it's weird because when I worked in, my thing was, I can say I'm very fortunate that when I went to school, when I grew up in Boston, I took advantage of a lot of programs. I'm glad that I had mentors in my life, people who saw my potential, even as when I was young, because you're a young person, you're just like, I'm going to do a bunch of different things. I thought I was going to go in the military. At one point in my life, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to the military. I really wanted to go in the Air Force. That was I was like, I want to be in the Air Force. And because my brother was in the ROTC and stuff, and he went off to the Army. But I was like, yeah. And then my mind was just changed. I was in that point in high school. But then I had some great teachers who kept looking, and they noticed that I loved English, I loved science, but I also loved drawing a lot. Even though I did my homework and stuff like that and whatever, but I loved drawing. And they were just like, well, Frank, you can make a career out of it. And I didn't believe that. I was like, I don't know anybody that does, that makes money drawing. And then I remember one day they had like a huge assembly in my high school. And they brought this guy in who did illustrations for the Boston Globe. He also did other stuff too, I think, other things, but it was mostly sports illustrations. And he came in, and I remember all the rest of the kids were kind of like, they weren't really paying a lot of attention to him, but I remember I was really focused on what he was saying. So after the whole assembly, I went up to this guy, and I looked in, and he was pretty well known. He's really well known. I remember him. He did an image of Larry Bird with a pigeon body, but it was Larry Bird's head on it, and it was incredible. It was amazing, incredible penmanship, everything. And I remember just staring at it. And he did some other. He had other sports, because mostly sports artwork illustrations.
But I remember I was like, you actually get paid for this? And he was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I get paid for this. And I was like, wow. And so that was like the start of it. And then from there, I started jumping into programs. They started putting me in the programs. They were suggesting, I had teachers suggesting me to go into these programs at the time. And they put me in there was a mass College of Arts program that was on the weekend, on Saturdays. I remember going in, doing that. They put me in this program called the ORC, which was Occupational Resource Center. So it was like half day at school, but then another half would be at this place where you just focused on a trade or a skill. So it was like, for me, it was illustration. So I would go in there and that's what I would do, was just illustration. And then after that, I ended up getting a scholarship, and they were like, where do you want to go, kid? And I was like, I don't know. And then I started getting these schools, like the Cubit School reached out to me. And awesome. I was like, wow. There was one of the schools that reached out to me, and I turned them down. I turned them down because I didn't want to leave Massachusetts. I didn't want to live in Jersey.
You didn't want to go to Jersey.
I was afraid. I didn't want to leave my friends and family. So then I said, I'm going to be at a school that's more closer. So I did some tours of the design school. There was a design school, the architectural school I went to, and I was like, I'm not an architect, nowhere near that. And then Butera School of Art popped up, and I remember going in there. I was nervous, and the guy was like, he sat across from me, and he just said, "Okay, kid, let me see what you got." And I said, I was fumbling and stuff, showing all my stuff, my still life. Right. I think I drew my bag. I think I drew my duffel bag as a still life and whatever. And then I put up comic book page, and he said, "Oh," I said, "Huh." And he said, "Well, here's the thing." He said, "In this school, we teach artists to work." And I was like, "Work?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "No." He said, "No, we teach you to make money doing what you want to do. It's art. Right. That means you get hired. You're like a contractor. Mm-hmm. Right. We're not going to teach you to be a starving artist or like an artist who wants to have your stuff on a gallery. If you want to, right. If you want that, you can go to some other schools and whatever, and I'm sure that they can help you with that. But we're here to teach you how to make money being an artist." And I said, "Okay, that's it." And they said, "All right, here we go. Then you're in."
If only all colleges.
Yeah, they did. My teachers were hardcore. I think I had one time, one of my classes was like to go to the Museum of Fine Arts, and it was one assignment, like just to look at an artist thing, Goya or something like that. But then after that, it was like, nope. They said anything else you want to learn about art history, you can do it on your own time. Here, we're going to train. We're teaching you so that when you leave here, you can work. You can be able to survive, make a living as an artist. And if you choose to learn other aspects of art, then that's on your nickel. And I was like, okay. And all my teachers at that school worked. They were in the field. Some of my teachers did artwork for Parker Brothers. They did games. They did fashion art illustrations. They were just all in it, doing stuff, making, doing great stuff that they love doing, making money. And so they eventually kept pumping that into my head. They were like, "You're an artist. You should be making money, doing what you're doing." Yeah. So I was like, okay, amen to that. Right on.
Mission accomplished.
Yes, yes.
And here you are.
The hustle had to be there, though. That was the thing. After I graduated from school, it was like a 3-year school. After I graduated, I wasn't making anything. It was like, took me 2 years before I finally made the leap into actually getting some work. I said, please, just one job, just come. And if it sticks, I'm jumping on it. And I did. And that was the film work from production studio in Waltham.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah. So now I have 3 questions. The first one being, is it Godzilla or Kong? So that's the first one. The second one, who is your favorite kaiju overall? Oof. Godzilla right. Count. And then the third one being is, if Marvel reached out to you and said, "We have this project."
I love this.
That's be what you want, giant monsters and stuff.
I got the answer already.
Yeah, cool. All right. I was gonna say is, who is what would be the thing that you can see yourself being like, wow, I'm gonna draw this. This is like amazing.
All right.
So
okay, cool.
Answer however you want.
All right, I'm gonna actually honestly, oh man. For the first one, I'm gonna say Kong, King Kong. And here's my reason behind King Kong. I just feel that Godzilla, originally my Godzilla that I loved was a Showa era Godzilla, where he started off where he was sort of like this thing that came up. He was almost like a sort of analogy of the war. Like he was human beings that caused this thing to sort of strike back, and this thing comes out of the ocean, and then it confronts man, and it kind of battles man and stuff like that. And then over the years, Godzilla became almost like a hero. I just think that now, as time went on, Godzilla has become such this massive force that I've kind of been like, I've gotten lukewarm with Godzilla. I've loved what King Kong is. I like how Kong is, how they do in Kong. Well, I think Kong has a little bit more depth to the character. I think that the island and the fact that he's battling all these different creatures, he's trying to find his place, especially the new stuff that just came out with Legendary's Kong. I really love what they're going. I'm actually more excited to see more of that. Like when he had the world underneath, I was like, oh my God, I'm psyched for that. Yeah, I do respect Godzilla. I think Godzilla is great in a certain aspect, but I think that I'm a little tired. I'm a little like, all right, I can take a little breather from Godzilla a little bit. Okay. So I would say King Kong on that one. Let me just say that King Kong. Now on the second one, Gamera.
Okay.
Now I've always felt my totem has been the tortoise. I always see myself like that, like the tortoise in the fable, where the tortoise took his time to win the race. I'm always been about the marathon. Those hares running by, run, hare, run. I'm gonna take my sweet time and I'm gonna cross that finish line for the right time. So anyway, Gamera has represented to me the Ronin. He's this warrior that's sort of out there, battling these things, these creatures or whatever, these enemies, and it's like this endless battle. He'll never be rewarded or for his actions. He'll just keep battling until he eventually will be destroyed. And something about that, there's a romantic kind of thing about that. So I've always looked at Gamera, especially the later, what do they call is that called the Heisei Legacy, where they did the newer films, where he was like, they finally explained that he was created by the people, whatever, the ancient civilization, to battle against Gauss and that kind of thing. So I actually love that. I was like, oh man, that's cool. So Gamera's like this sort of Ronin warrior. So anyway, that would be Gamera. And then the project that Marvel, all right, immediately, Red Ronin. In my head, I said that would be the thing. Red, if I could, if Marvel said, okay, if you could come and do Red Ronin, make it almost like a story where, say there's because they got their multiverse or whatever, but say you have a universe where it's almost in the lines of like how Mazinga Z, like Red Ronin would be almost like Mazinga Z. He would be like the super robot of this world. And then you have all these kajus and various evil scientists and evil robots and that kind of thing. And Red Ronin is sort of battling these various menaces and stuff like that. So I would see a world like that. That would be my story. An homage, literally, to what Doug Munich and Herb Trimpe were doing with the Shogun Warriors and Godzilla series. It literally, because that's those guys. When I look at it, you took these Western guys, these guys from the West, who took something, looked at it. They didn't copy what Japan was doing. They literally just said, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to give our Western feel of what this is, what we feel this is. And they made something amazing. I would love to do that. That would be what I would love to do. I wouldn't want to try it. I love the fact that Godzilla didn't look like Godzilla. It looked like Herb Trimpe drawing Godzilla. Right. And I was like, that's beautiful. He made a cool Godzilla. He made a Godzilla who's like punching, fighting the I think it was the Avengers or the Fantastic Four. I think he battled some of the champions. I mean, it was great. It was a Devil Dinosaur. I mean, it was incredible. Yeah. So it would be Red Ronin. It would be definitely Red Ronin comic.
There you go. Yeah. Well, hopefully one day Marvel decides, let's give it to somebody a shot, and they'll have your number.
I don't know. I ain't gonna hold my breath on that one. But we'll see.
At least you know
anything can happen. Anything.
Yeah. At least you know that you'd be like, all right, these are my conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. If they say yay, I'm like, this is the best damn day of my life. All right, let's do this.
I think that it's amazing now that right now we're in this gold rush with so many indie creators putting out stuff. I mean, I look at. I love Marvel, I love DC, and I love them all. I love all of the comic companies and stuff like that. But we are right now in this massive rush of incredible amount of indie creators out there that are just bringing amazing stuff. And I mean, this has happened before. I want people who are out there who are seeing this, please understand. We had the underground comics back in the day. What was that, the 60s? You know, I mean, you had horror comics. Marvel was part of that. Marvel, actually, the funny thing is crazy. Marvel was part of this. That was the whole shift too, the change when Stan Lee and those guys started to bring stuff, Fantastic Four, and all this crazy stuff started coming. I feel like we're right now in the cusp of that right now, going through with like some of the new stuff that's popping up, you know. So yeah, I mean, you know, I think this is a fantastic time.
It definitely is, and it's funny that you bring up like the properties, because while I and my co-hosts here talk about, you know, the nerd news, the new movies and whatnot, I'm sure at some point, Leo, we're going to talk about the Quantumania trailer.
Amazing. I was like, yeah.
I kind of find myself missing when you had the non-Marvel DC movies, and it was funny because I was watching a review and somebody brought up The Rocketeer, and I was like, right, that was a great movie. And that is just, and that came at a time, that was Joe Johnson directed that. That came at a time when, again, comic book movies weren't really still the norm. And you watch it and you're like, wow, this was just so well done. And it just completely fell under the radar. And I think that you know, those gems like that,
the Phantom. The Phantom.
Oh yeah.
I remember watching the Phantom. I had that ring, man. I had that ring. That was an amazing movie. Billy Zane. Oh.
Yeah. So you had that. You had The Shadow. You had Mystery Men. You had original characters like Sam Raimi's Darkman. You know, he got his due in the comics.
Darkman.
You know, like weird movies like The Mystery Men, and then even hell, even if you want
Meteor Man. Did Meteor Man make it in there?
Meteor Man.
Hello.
Yeah.
I remember Meteor Man. Absolutely.
Yeah, probably Meteor Man. You know, when he showed up in that Disney original movie with superheroes, I was like, I'm done. Meteor Man's here. No, I just, you know, even movies that weren't even like what was it, like Ghost World, even Kevin Smith's Chasing Amy, I always considered as a very comic book movie, you know, especially I mean, you brought up Learning to Draw, and you said that, and I thought that Chasing Amy Tracer's argument, and I was like, oh man, you know, no, you're not an artist, you're a tracer, you're an inker. You're a tracer.
Yeah. I think you know, most kids learn. I'm saying kids, when most kids, like little kids, when you're just learning, sure, you go through the process of tracing, but eventually you don't want your life to be a replicator. You know, I've used that term too. I've told them, you know, I've said, hey, look, you know, when I worked in advertising, sure, because you're doing work for a client, you know, they're like, hey, Frank, you got to make this look like the actual product, you know, so yeah, you got to make it look like the product. That's a replication. But ideally, when you're talking stuff like comic books or anything that's a very creative market, you don't want to become a human copy machine. Right. You want to be original. You want to have your own voice. And I'm always adamant on telling artists that who come to me, I'm like, have your own voice. You know, you must understand the fundamentals, because there are fundamentals, you know, on the perspective, composition, layout. Yes, but your voice is your own. I mean, you could sing whatever voice you want to sing, as long as you understand how the song's is laid out and stuff like that. And sure.
Yeah. Now, being someone it's worked with both the you know, like the Marvels and the Independents, Frankie, when you worked on the Marvel sketch cards, did they allow you to have your voice, or were there a lot of edits and something like that?
Well, I worked on the Marvel licensing through Upper Deck, so it was it was through Upper Deck, and at the time, Upper Deck was pretty open. I definitely was like somebody who I was like, I'm gonna put characters in there that I know that no one else, because in my head I was thinking this. I said, look, there's going to be a dozen different Captain Americas. There's going to be a dozen of the more popular characters, a dozen Wolverines, that stuff. I was like, I'm going to see if I can get a, and usually this is just me. I usually just follow that sort of mindset of like, just do it, and then until somebody says no. I'm that old school artist. I've done some stuff where I just go, well, until somebody catches it, then I'll know if it's wrong. So I broke open my Marvel universes and I just started looking at old school characters, and I put as many different obscure characters as I could in those sets, and people liked it. The only time I got shot down was when I put Red Ronin in. I put Red Ronin in, and they were like, I remember Upper Deck contacting me, and they were like, well, they said no. So I said, okay, I'm keeping them cards. They were like, well, you can't resell them. I was like, don't worry, I'm not gonna resell them. I'm fine.
No, this is exclusive for me. This is me exclusive.
But so I mean, I just drew stuff, and they were like, fine, cool. They dug the stuff that I did when I got to work on, what was it? The Kree. The first one was the Avengers Kree Skrull set. I did a ton of cards with that. That was really fun. And then I did Thor. There was a Thor set. I did Captain America set. There was they had one called a Marvel. It was like booklets, where it was like sketch booklets, in which you could fold them out. You could open the cards up, but they were like books. Cool. Really intricate stuff. It was crazy. And I did those and for a little bit. And they had women's. I think they had women's and stuff like that. So yeah. But still, there was a part of me that I still wanted to get on sets like that. I really wanted to be on, like the Godzilla. Like there was a Godzilla set that came out, and I missed it, and I was like, oh my god! But I did make it. I did make up with the Transformer one. I was able to get on a Transformer set by Bregent Marketing, and they contacted me. They say, hey, yo, you like robots? I said, yeah. And I remember at the time I had other gigs going on. I had like, the life of a commercial illustrator, folks. You have multiple gigs. It's not like you have one gig. You're working on like, so you got to really know how to divvy up your stuff. And it was a Transformers gig, to do cards on. And I was like, I can't say no to that. So I remember. Yeah. But the problem, well, the thing was, I remember they were like, well, originally when they sent the form to me explaining all the characters you can draw, they were like, well, you can only draw the characters from the movie at the time, the movie stuff. And then you can draw a few of the G1. And I was like, ooh. Because I was like, ooh. So I did a big segment, a big chunk of the movie ones. But then I did a bunch of the G1 stuff. The G1, I could have done all of my set on G1. I was so excited just to do that. So I got to draw the Dinobots and, Devastator.
Oh, you get Leo excited now. He's like, G1, Dinobots.
Frankie, if you ever have an auction where you're like, oh, I'll draw this guy right here, Mr. Pond, will contribute.
I got somebody right here. Who's this?
Oh, that's one of the Insecticons.
Oh yeah, the original ones. Yeah. I always got a few of my characters. Some of my characters. Some of the Transformers around.
I've been collecting some of the newer ones, and my wife. Oh wow, that's awesome!
Wow,
inspiration, man, inspiration.
Absolutely, gotta have your toys.
Oh, you got to. Oh,
Leo is perpetually trying to control his buying more, but then someone has to release something. He's just like, what do we do? I said, well, how long do you want your wife to be mad at you?
Oh.
Well, she understands. So like my Transformers, when I moved out, I sold my entire collection so I can make
Yeah,
you got to pay rent. It's
I get it. See, that's it. That's a collector. That's a true collector right there. Right on, man.
So I mean, the Transformers I'm collecting now, I'm collecting like the newer ones, but it's only figures that like characters that I had when I was a kid.
Oh, I'm still in pain because for me, I do have figures, but I love our original artwork. Yep. And at one point, I was hardcore collecting original artwork, and I had at least 40 pages from the Shogun Warriors.
Oh wow!
Comics, right? Signed, many of them signed by Herb Trimpe. Times got hard.
Wow!
I ended up selling them, man. I still get pain from that. I got a few drawings that Herb did that I still have, like a Godzilla head, and I got a rating sketch card. Those still leave me with a little like that pain. Like you go, oh my god, they're out there. Yeah. And then also, I mean, I told people, if you're going to be a true collector, you got to understand that it is an investment, and hopefully, maybe one day, if things get rough for you, you can sort of flip it. Like I remember buying a collection of Shane Glein. Remember Shane? Shane Glein, right?
I do not.
Oh, Shane. Oh, wow. Shane Glime did a ton of like character work on the Batman animated series.
Okay.
He did Kim Impossible, worked on Kim Impossible. I mean, he was hot at one point, like back in the early, I think 2000s, late in mid 2000s. We'll say that his work was hot. And I remember there was a massive eBay sale for his work, and I jumped on that. I got that, and yeah, it was a nice turnaround. It was a good investment.
It's always so funny because every once in a while, like I'll just for hell of it, I'll be like, let me just look up original comic art pages, things like that, and then sometimes it's a private seller, and sometimes it's the artist himself, and he's saying, and I just play the game where it's no, hell no, not in this lifetime. Maybe if I sell a kidney, and very rarely do I ever was like, oh, and then I'm like, no, I can't, because I know, because I'm like, rent is a son of a bitch.
Yeah, but the other end of that is thank God now these artists are getting paid for their work.
Yes.
True.
Well, I think that now one of the things about it is that I think that artists are starting to see their worth, because I think that's what many artists back then they suffered from. I think Stan Lee, like when I look about the whole thing between Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, I took a step back on that and I said, well, at the time when Jack Kirby came back to Marvel and was working on Fantastic Four and all that stuff, he was well known. I mean, he was pretty well known. So think about that. Let's just say, hypothetically, in another universe, what if Jack Kirby had that thing that Stan Lee had? Like Stan Lee, I think, was aware. Like he understood business. He understood, like, oh yeah, I'm writing, but also, you got to get paid for your stuff. I think he had a fine understanding of that. I wish Jack Kirby could have understood that. I wish Jack, in another universe, I feel like there's a Jack Kirby out there, a variant, where he looked at them and said, well, here guys, I'm Jack Kirby, and if you don't want to work with me, then I'm out. And I wish that he could have had that. I wish that he could have just been like, well, I'm this good, because he was that good. He was at the top of his game. He had the powers. He had the power of the fandom behind him, and because the level of his work. And I just feel that he didn't utilize that to benefit him.
Sure.
Because he could have that whole fourth world thing, that could have been his whole thing. Hey, I'm gonna do my own fourth world thing. What are you gonna do?
Right.
I feel that if he could have had what Todd McFarlane and those guys had before they did their thing, and imagine if they had did it like guys like him, they would have been producing stuff like crazy. There wouldn't have been no shut off time. There would have been no late books. They would have just been putting stuff out.
Unfortunately, Frankie, there's got to be hundreds of stories like that. Like we've had Athena Finger in talking about her grandfather, Bill Finger, of course.
Yes.
And unfortunately, he had a very tragic end, but he was a brilliantly talented man.
Yeah.
And guys like him and like Jerry Robinson, I mean, they paved the way. I think that one of the things that my teachers taught me was that as artisans, we are creative folks. I'm a creative person. I love that fact of creating something, and then someone looks at it and they get this feeling, and they go, man, wow, this is incredible, or they get whatever emotion or whatever. I love that aspect. But I'm so fortunate that I had teachers who also were like, well, this is the reality. This is the world that we live in too. It is a capitalist, society. You got to make money. It's not, you got to pay your bills. You can't just be like, hey, look, how are you going to get those supplies? Just walk into an art supply store and be like, can you give me some supplies, please? That doesn't work. So the thing is that you have to find that balance between what you feel as an artist to the point of the reality of that we live in a world where you need to make a living. Right. And if that, and that means learning some level of business. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a business genius. I just think that there's a level of common sense business that if you have an understanding of that, you might be able to make it through this stuff. I've always considered myself that I'm in my rowboat. Well, not a rowboat anymore, but it's a boat. And I'm on the sea, and the sea is the art field. It's a massive ocean, and there's various inlets, and comic books are an inlet. I've done RPG gaming art illustrations. I've done artwork for novels. So it's like those are different inlets and stuff, but I'm always able to get back into the sea and get on my boat, and my boat just keeps, sometimes there's been some
what's the word I'm looking for? The holes in the boat. Sometimes there's a little sprouts of water coming through, but I plug it back up, whatever, just so I can stay above the water. But I have an understanding of it. That's that visualization that helped me to get through so many of those rough times, those times where I was like, oh my God, is this it? What am I going to do? That kind of thing. And, I was just telling the artists out there that are listening, creative folk, that, if you walk into it, first off, you got to be passionate about it. Please be passionate. I mean, really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, do I really want this? Because that's going to be the first thing that's going to,
You're gonna need
you
that.
have to drive you through all the hard times. You're going to need that. That helps you to keep smiling through everything. If you have that, then you've already got a major thing right there. And then now start looking at stuff with a more realistic eyes, not just the eyes where you got, unicorns and stuff flying in your eyes and whatever. Like you look, oh, I'm going to draw comics and whatever. Well, you also, how much is that going to cost you as in service, depending on whether or not you're doing your own comic, like time, like how you're going to be able to finance this comic, be realistic about it, do your research, do stuff like that, educate yourself. Or if you're going to try to work for a major company or whatever, a publishing company,
Absolutely. And you've got your newest project now that got funded via the internet, correct?
Yes, twice. We had, here you go. This was the first book. Unfortunately, this one right here, you can't get anymore. This is the first one, the teaser, the 0 issue.
Okay.
Cowboys and Cowboys came out in 2021. We had a Kickstarter campaign, and it did very well. We funded it. It actually went over what we were asking. So This was the teaser. Now, the recent one that we just had, I'm still waiting on my books to come in, is for issue 1. This is where the story actually starts off on issue 1. And me and Matthew Blair are pushing for 12 issues.
Nice.
We're pushing. We got the dream for the 12 issues. So that's our motivation. But I'm already on issue 5 now, working on issue 5.
Awesome.
Cool. Now, where can people find that book?
Well, right now is we had the Kickstarter. I mean, sorry, not Kickstarter, the crowdfunding, the recent one for issue 1. Next year, that's when we're looking, because we had to sit down. We had one of those moments because a lot of stuff happened. We actually were signed with a publishing company, and we thought the publishing company was going to actually put our book out like this year. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And we were sitting back going, hey, what's going on? We're going around, we're telling people this stuff and whatever, and nothing's happening. See, this is where sometimes it's like you got to sort of, take a step back if you're going to try to put your books out and stuff like that. Maybe that might not be the avenue for you trying to get a publisher. We signed with a publisher and it didn't work for us. And so because we weren't getting anything out, and we actually told them that. We said, look, we don't want to lose the fans that, had came on for this book. We don't want to lose them because we're just sitting around and waiting, to try to, when you guys are going to publish it. So we asked to get let go, and we said, okay, me and Matthew sat back and said, okay, what's the plan, Frank? So our plan is that we are planning on doing another crowdfunding next year. And then we're looking to get onto a platform where we'll be able to sell the book continuously.
Great.
Nice.
So that's the plan. That's the plan that we have right now.
Well, when that happens, let us know, and we'll gladly share. And
most definitely. Oh yeah. That's one thing people know about me is that I do post.
Yeah, he's on TikTok like crazy, and his art is
what?
beautiful.
It's like for years, people kept telling me about TikTok, and I was always like, I don't know, and whatever. It took me a little time, and then finally, it was like I got on, and I'm like, I love the fact of the instant interaction, like being able to get that response from people and stuff. Like it's so much more faster. And I said, you got me, I'm hooked. And I love that you can tweak your videos up and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, I love this. This is perfect. So yeah,
I'm 3 months in. I'm just learning the video editing now, but I'm having fun doing it.
It is. It's fun. It's actually fun. Especially when you go in there with the mindset of like, I have a product and I'm marketing my product. Then yeah, it's a great tool. Use everything you can. Guerrilla marketing is an amazing thing.
Absolutely. And Frankie, I was wondering, I was looking, one of your favorite visual artists, it says, was John Byrne.
Yes.
So number one, did you ever get to meet him?
No.
And, that's unfortunate. I just figured he was right in Connecticut, so not too far away. And number two,
Whoa.
did you get to see the She-Hulk finale, which I felt was both an homage to both Dan Slott and heavy John Byrne?
Yes. Yes, I did. Yes.
Did you enjoy that?
Yes. I mean, I tell people it's so, because I get people ask me questions about all these Marvel movies and DC and stuff, and I said I'm the worst person to ask because I love it all. And I think, and my reason behind it is that I grew up where the possibility of what we see now wasn't even a factor.
Right.
I think that's the thing. It's tough for me to sit there and be like, I'm gonna nitpick every little. I can't do that. I just enjoy it for what it is. It's like another part of it is that I've worked behind the scenes. I've been on the other side. You know, when you see that, like I'm the person who sits and looks at the credits and I smile because I see all these artisans who have worked and they've worked on this project, and it's all. So I'm a tough person to ask for that kind of stuff. I'm happy, even if a movie's not even that good in my eyes. I go, yeah, but you know what? They got it made, man. And it's cool. They put it out. They got it out. There's thousands of movies that get made every year that Hollywood's pumping out. You know, do I expect something to be so grand or whatever? I don't know, man. I don't know how the next thing is. I'm just happy that they're able to do it. I'm happy that I'm still around to see the Hulk leaping and bounding on buildings and punching out aliens. I'm happy to see Captain America running through the street, flipping on a car, man. And then, you know, I'm just seeing She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having the Savage She-Hulk issue 1, man. And now I'm watching a TV show with her on it. So I love it all, man. I tell anybody that I love it all. Loki, Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, all that stuff, man. Give it to me.
And if you haven't seen it yet, because I know the writer has inspired you, Anne Rice is the new Interview with a Vampire series.
Haven't seen it yet. No.
I'm 3 episodes in, and I'm not as well versed on Anne Rice as my Harley is. But she's like, oh my God, this is Lestat from the book. And the writing is really good.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I think AMC put that out, but they're doing a really good job.
Well, that's on HBO, right? Or no,
it's on AMC Plus. Yeah. AMC Plus, because I have AMC, but they won't. You have to get the Plus subscription, and so I'm like, I gotta wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit until it hits on Amazon. I'll just get the whole series.
There you go.
Yeah, you gotta wait, man. I'm like, I can't get any more streaming series. Come on, man, they're killing me.
Did you have a chance to see Black Adam yet?
Nope, not yet.
You're the only one, Leo.
You're the only one.
Yeah. Well, what happened was my wife Jess. We talked about it, and she was just like, "No, Frank." She's like, "Frank, I don't know. Maybe this is one that we could just sort of wait until it pops up." And I was like, "I got a feeling because we're saving everything for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever."
That trailer looked pretty bad.
Hey, look I don't care what no one says, man. I'm just when I saw that side the scene with Namor flying, I was like, oh my God. I mean,
double jump.
Yeah,
with his baby wings, with his little baby wings. It's awesome. Yeah. It's just like the comic back in the 1970s. I had a Namor #1. Unfortunately, in the divorce, I had to give it away.
Oh
yeah. I gave away 10 long boxes, Frankie. It was painful and not at a good cost either. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
You got to exactly. I tell people that's it. Like a true collector, you have to be able to understand it. It's got to go. It's like you get it, you love it, but when times get hard, you gotta let it go. You know it hurts, man.
That's fine. I agree with that, but. Yep. Depending on the collector and on how attached you are to certain thing, that's fine. Yep. And I know because I'm a collector myself, and I know that there are books, and I log every book I own, so I know. Yep. I'm like, if I had to part with you, fine. But there's some like over my cold, goddamn nerdy fingers. You claim
But say like you were such at a point where you really needed cash. I mean, you really needed it.
No, listen, I totally get it. And you know, you speaking of Byrne, I actually got to meet him in Boston about like it was like 2018. It was 2018. I got to meet him. He was he was at Boston Comic-Con, and I couldn't believe it because I'm like, this is John Byrne. He's an old of the older generation. Yeah. And you know, I heard some mixed stories. Some people are like, oh, he was really great, and some of them he's kind of a bit of a dick. And so I always take that with a grain of salt because, you know, but I was like, okay, you know what? So I'm standing online to meeting him. And, you know, I have him sign, you know, Man of Steel because It's John Byrne, Man of Steel. That's one of the de facto that. And I'm a Hellboy fan, so he did Seed of Destruction, so I had him sign the first ones, and we're talking about it and whatnot. And he's very nice, but I don't want to say he was a little checked out, but he was just kind of like, and I'm just like, and I sneakily, while he's signing my books, I snapped a photo because I have to prove I met him, because I'm like, all right, well, you could just buy this if it's signed by John Byrne. But it was still really cool and talking to him about Superman and Hellboy and stuff. But I was just like, wow, I met like John Byrne. And the worst is I realized I had 2 books that he did. And I'm like, fuck, why didn't I bring them? They're never going to get signed. So I'm just like, you know what? Fine. Still met him. So when we reviewed She-Hulk, I was like, man, this is great. But I will say this, Frankie, if you ever get to meet him, he does not like signing trade paperbacks. He likes signing issues. He has a thing about trade paperbacks. A friend of mine said that he met Byrne.
He likes floppies.
He said that when he met him, he had like a John Byrne stamp. So if it was a trade paperback, he would just like, wow. I was like, wow. I was like, yeah. I was. Like,
I just picked up a bunch of his Doom Patrol. I got his Doom Patrol run and the Doomsday. Remember his book Doomsday? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ended up grabbing those. I was like, oh man, these are pretty interesting. So yeah, I mean, John Byrne to me, I always felt like he was our version of I'll say our like 70s and 80s, like Jack Kirby in a certain degree. Not as wild as Jack was, but boy, his level of drawing would do
details.
It was cinematic. It was almost cinematic. Like literally in your head, you'd be like, that's the movie. Like if they do the Fantastic Four movie, I go, well, yeah, you should just take John Byrne's page and plaster him up around the wall and do those scenes. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, man, I still bring his stuff out. I still pop it out and be like, oh man, just stare at it and go, okay, all right. Now let me look what my pages are doing.
Right. No, but it's like, again, if you get a chance to meet these people, you might as well. Yeah. I mean, I remember reading about, what was it, like the first Comic-Con, you had Leonard Nimoy and Jack Kirby, and I was like, what I would give to be there at this crummy hotel and just say to these people, you have no idea what you're starting.
Oh, yeah. I remember meeting Kevin Eastman earlier on when he did in Boston. I remember giving him a Leonardo. I drew Leonardo. And the picture was, it was what it was. But I ended up giving it to him, and he just was like, "Well, yeah, man, just keep." He was a really cool dude. He was just like, "Yeah, just keep hanging in there, just keep doing your thing, keep the art and whatever." I mean, it was a great experience with him and stuff. I remember meeting Mike Mignola. I got schooled a little bit by him. He looked at some of my stuff, and he was like, "Just remember your positives and negatives with your inking." And I was like, "Okay." But the coolest was Joe Kubert. Joe Kubert was like, it was weird at this particular con. It was like Mike Mignola, Jim Lee walked by me. I remember Jim Lee. I had a book. I don't know which one of Jim Lee's books, but I was like, "Hey, Jim!" And then he looked at me and he said, right over there, he pointed to the sign. It was like a massive, massive line of people, and he was like, "The line's over there." And I was like, "All right, dude, whatever." So I stepped out of there. Yeah, exactly. See, my whole attitude was like, yeah, whatever. So I stepped away from that, and then that's when I saw Mike Mignola. And Mike Mignola said, "Hey, come over," and he started looking at my stuff and whatever. And I was like, "Hey, what's going on, Mike?" And he said, "Just remember, just your part." He's like, "You love using a lot of ink and stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, dude." So then that was cool. And then Joe Kubert was standing up, and I walked over and I said, "Hey," I don't know if I called him Mr. Kubert. I probably did. I was young. Yeah. And he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He put his arm around me. He said, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm in art school and stuff, and this is my stuff, and you're incredible." And he was like, "Yeah." He said, "I see some potential." He said, "Just remember," and he just schooled me a little bit. But it was very like grandfatherly kind of. And it was really cool. I was like, "Oh man, thank you." I was like, "Well, thank you so much, sir." He's like, but it was really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. I only ever met Adam. He was very chill. I got to meet him. I never met Andy, and Joe passed before I could meet him. And I was like, it's Joe. It's Joe Kubert. Like,
Joe Kubert is amazing. He was cool. He just was like the coolest guy. Before Paul Ryan passed away, and I got to speak with Paul Ryan and stuff. Paul Ryan was another person who I really respected and stuff. I mean, yeah, and I love when they're just like. You're just like, hey, they're just cool. Like that's when when I got a chance to talk to Herb Trimpe and stuff, it was just I had to let him know. I was like, yeah, I was a kid in the projects, man, and I had your book and stuff. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah. I said, you really just your work, it was just really fun, and I love that funness. And I was like, he was like, yeah. And I said, well, I'd like to just let you know that I went to doing that. And he was like, wow. And he just took it back, and I said, yeah. And I said, I'd like to thank you. And I got to talk to him on a couple occasions. He actually gave me his phone number at the time, and I was like, wow. Called him Dad. I actually joked. I even said, I think I can call you Dad. And he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Coolest guy. There you go. Humble, just cool guy, man. And I said, that's how I want to be. Like I said, I don't want to be like that. Like my head's this high in the clouds. It's like, no, man, I'm just a guy, and I draw, and I'm having a great time. And if people dig it, then that's cool. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. You remind me of one time I got to meet Mike Mignola, and I got to meet him at like an art show.
Oh,
and
nice.
I found out for like this thing. So I found out through a friend that he was going to be there. And I'm like, oh my God. So I grabbed like a sad bag, and I was like, okay, I'm only going to bring the essentials because he only has like a limit. And I got a train into the city. I took like a cab from the subway, and I got there, and it's an art show, so there's a lot of people, but he's just sitting there. It's just Mike Mignola, and this was a con. He'd have a line out the door.
Sure.
He's just sitting there, and I asked him, I was like, "Are you Mike Mignola?" He said, "Usually," and I was like, "What the?" And I was just like,
wow.
And would you mind signing some things for me? And I had this old stuff, and I even got a photo with him as wearing a BPRD hoodie.
Nice.
And I hate myself because I should have. And I told him, I said, yeah, I would have brought some. Oh yeah, I would have signed it. And I'm like, the one time I show restraint.
Oh, man.
And but I had a similar thing, and I was telling him one of the books he got to work on introduced me to one of my favorite DC characters, Starman.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
He was so cool, and it was just one of those things where I was like, man, I would love to meet him again, but I'm just like, it'll never happen like that. And you're just like,
yeah,
I'm so grateful, but God, it could have been. You can't ever think, oh, it could have been even bigger.
Well, I had a moment. I had a moment this past summer. I'm not ashamed to say about it. I had a moment at the Plastic City Comic Con. It's in Fitchburg, right? So I'm doing my thing, man. I'm talking and stuff, and everybody and people are coming by and whatever. And then this guy comes up and he goes, "Hey, Frank, would you mind signing your comic?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." And you're not thinking. And I just turn, I look over, and he has a copy of Brothers in Arms. And Brothers in Arms was this 2-issue comic that I had done with a friend of mine named Chad Lewis way back in the 90s.
Okay.
And I just lost it. Like it was an emotional kind of, because I was just like, it's crazy to think that I had these comics, that I did stuff that's out there in the wilderness. Like I've worked on a lot of various things that are out there in this wilderness, and that it just came home. Like he had it, and he just looked at me, so, "Are you all right?" And I just, my eyes started welling up, and I was trying to compose myself, because I was like, oh my God, it's just, and this book brought back so much memory, and the newsprint, the image, the time, I still got some of the pages of it and stuff, and it's just like, wow, man. And he said, well, do you want it? I said, no, you hold on to it. And I signed it for him and stuff like that. But it was a very powerful moment, and it's just taken to the point of like what you're saying, like when you went to go see Mike Mignola, how that must feel when somebody comes and truly comes. I mean, you truly are coming there and you're saying, "Hey, look, how you doing?" And you're having a conversation, a rational conversation with them, saying, "Hey, how you doing? And this is what your work has done for me." It's such a feeling. I can't even describe that. That's amazing. Sure. It's an amazing thing. And when you're able to tell them that, it's beautiful.
It really is.
All right, guys. Give me all blubbering up here. It's a beautiful thing. That's what it's about. So that's what it's about, man. Oh, tears time. It
happens. Well, Frankie, we certainly appreciate your time, man. And I know you've got several projects going on. So is there anything besides Kajus and Cowboys right now that you're pushing?
Oh, man. The messed up thing about it is that the stuff that I'm working on, I can't really talk about too much. I can't say this. I will be working. I think there's going to be another. I worked on an Ultraman card set.
Okay.
So so it's Ultraman set 1, and then it's set 2 that's going to be coming out. I think they're going to be doing a crowdfunding. Now this is official too. This isn't like it's official. It's official through RR Parks cards. And I think he mentioned that there will be a 3. Like he's got the license to go for another 3. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but he definitely wants to get me on the that one. So that one's coming down the wire. I'm going to keep working on Kaijus and Cowboys. I'm going to be working on King Cryptid for Alterna Comics. Do one of the issues and stuff. So that's happening. And then I think I'll probably do. Let's see. This guy right here, Frankengore. I think there's going to be some more stuff with this guy. This is a comic that I did called Frankengore.
Oh wow!
And it came out on a Wednesday to Alterna Comics. That's actually the character right there, and it's almost like a homage. Let me see if I can get it closer. It's an homage to I don't know if you guys remember King Kong Escapes.
Yes.
Well, it's an homage to that.
All right.
King Kong Escapes, Mecha Kong, that kind of all that fun stuff.
Nice.
A homage, though. It's like we're not not copying. I don't believe in that plagiarism stuff.
Right.
You just create something, create a homage to it.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So I know we need to wrap soon, but being a working artist, is there in our area? There's several large, geeky, dorky companies that like. Mm-hmm. Is there anywhere in particular that you'd be like, holy shit, like, they offer you like a day job to do like the art in the house or something like that? Is there any large company in the area that like I think of like Hasbro or Lego or
I don't know. I mean, I came close to doing Hasbro. At least I can say what happened with Hasbro was it was actually an art director who I did some advertising work years ago, and she ended up working at Hasbro, and I had to get surgery. I had to get surgery. I think it was either my neck or my back. But either way, she contacted me to do work on a Captain Marvel project, and I didn't do it.
Oh,
so that would have been my chance to do some stuff with Hasbro. So I missed out on that. It happens, man. So that's the rule of the game. Sometimes opportunities come, and then and what are you gonna do? I was like, I'm in pain, I'm in agony, and I gotta get this surgery done. So I guess Hasbro would be kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. I guess Hasbro would be cool. I can't think.
So Leah, really, what you're saying? Would he ever consider giving up the independent life and working directly for one of those companies?
Oh, that's what you're saying. Oh, give it up.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. No. I think
you don't really have to give it up because you can always do side jobs with
it's tough because I've been doing it for so long, freelancing. It's funny. I had that conversation with my wife and stuff, and I was like, I'm a lifer when it comes to freelancing. Yeah, I don't think I can. Because now I've been in it. I mean, I used to when I was in school. I mean, I started working when I was 12. And I had various jobs, and then the longest job I had was the one I did security. I was a security guard, and that was at that fine point because I did security while I was going through school in art school. And I remember my sergeant, they brought me up and they said, Frank, they said, okay, you either have to decide what are you going to do. Do you want to end up becoming like either an armed guard or that kind of thing? Take it to the next level. And so no, not my. I got it confused. Not my sergeant. My the head people, the people who own the company. But my sergeant was a good friend, and he said, Frank, he said, you went to art school, right? I never forget that. He said, you went to art school. I was like, yeah. And he said, well, you're an artist. He said, Frank, you're an artist. You're not a. He said, you've done a great job as a guard, but you need to follow your true path. And so that's what that. And I was like, okay. And that's when I made that leap. I just said, okay, I have to follow through with what I started off with, because there were a lot of people that pushed for me. And that was one of those things where I felt for myself, but also because I didn't want to feel like that I wasted these people's time. Like these people who believed in me and stuff like that. So that's always been the fire that's kept me going. And I just said, I just got to keep my game up. I got to hustle hard, find the clients, find them. So I think I'm a lifer when it comes to freelancing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Keep on.
That's right. That's right.
before we let you go, what did you think of the Quantumania trailer?
Woo, loved it. I loved it. Genuinely, yes, I loved it because it was one of those things where seeing Kang the Conqueror, you know, that's crazy. It's just like I don't know about the rest.
Even had the scar down his eye. That was awesome.
Isn't that crazy? You gotta take a step back and be like, I'm seeing Kang the Conqueror, man. And he comes hovering out. He's just like, oh, hey, what's going on, man? And then there's one part of me where I wish Marvel had the rights to the Micronauts.
Oh yeah.
Because then you know how cool that would be. Oh,
that would have been cool.
But it would be amazing. But yeah, it looked incredible. I like I said, all this stuff gets me jazzed up, man. And then I know you guys. I don't know if you guys saw the Nick Fury, the Secret Invasion.
Yes.
Yep. For that. Oh, I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm like, so when did he get replaced by the Skrull? Like that's blowing my mind. Like, do you guys have a theory? Like when he was replaced? Like which movie? Was it Avengers? Not Avengers.
I think it's after Age of Ultron.
Really? Okay.
That's what I'm thinking because he's been out of the loop for a while.
Yeah. That's mind-blowing.
You know, because that's what I'm thinking. Like he was out of the loop. It's why he's been, you know, that's why when he comes back, he's like, what the fuck happened? Like, Jesus.
Yeah. That's gonna be a mind one. That's incredible. But the fact that mind, I would love to be the fly on the wall just to see how they strategize all these films. Like the Marvel Studios, like, do they have this wall, this massive wall, and they just have everything laid out? Like, I mean, it's crazy. Some of this stuff. Oh man,
it's a lot of string and probably looks like the greatest crazy person room in the world.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I love the fact that even they got Kevin in there in the She-Hulk thing.
Yeah, and even the thing looked like his hat.
Yeah. That's brilliant, man. I mean, that's just wonderful stuff. It's just look, one of the things that we can look back at, and I know I'm dragging some ears right now, but man, one of the things you can look at what's going on with the MCU, they are taking chances with the cinematography, the filming techniques and stuff like that. Just take a step back on that. Like Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was amazing.
Oh my. Oh, I'm a big fan of Werewolf. I got the omnibus. A Werewolf by Night. I remember where the thing I loved about Werewolf by Night was I got into Werewolf by Night when he finally was getting control over the werewolf. Mm-hmm. So I missed a time when I originally got into the floppies of reading it. It was during that time when he was really getting in control of it. I had missed all the stuff beforehand, which to me, when I finally read it, I was kind of let down a little bit, just because I felt that he was getting his butt kicked too quick. Like he's getting beat by these bikers and they're beating the crap out of him. And I'm like, oh, dude, come on. He's a werewolf, man. Come on. He's got to be stronger than that. But I love what in the MCU, what they did for Werewolf by Night in the Disney Plus show, where you saw how formidable he was. How like, man, he can really do some damage. And then Man Thing, oh man.
Mm-hmm. Ted.
Oh, you mean Ted?
Ted? Oh, Ted. Well, they may. You know what? I think what Marvel does is that they throw these characters out, and then they see how people who don't know anything about these characters. Because honestly, Jess, she knew nothing about these characters. She didn't grow up reading comic books. Like when she first saw Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm sitting there telling her about Guardians of the Galaxy. She was just like, "Oh wow, that's what's his name from Parks and Recs." And I said, my feeling with the fandom is I feel like you got to understand that when he do these movies, they already know that we as a fandom, even if you have an issue or whatever, you're going to go see it just out of curiosity. You're just going to go whatever, see it. It's trying to fill up to get the rest of the people who know nothing about this stuff into those seats to make money. I mean, that's the reality. Let's look at the reality. It's about making money. Studios have to make their money. So when they create these things, they have to make it in a way that people are going to look at and go, wow. Like her first thought when she saw Man-Thing, she's like, I want a Funko of that character. That's her first. And, I'm like, what? You want to, she's like, yeah, she likes the way Man-Thing looks.
Yeah.
And you haven't read no Man-Thing books. And I'm like, she represents probably the rest of those millions of other people out there who know nothing about this character, but immediately they see this character, they see him act a certain way, and they go, wow. I want to see more of this character. And I think that's how Marvel saw that the MCU looked at it. They go, well, we're going to start seeing Man-Thing stuff now, probably.
Yeah, well, we like pushing because we always go over like a comic book story, and we prefer to push like the more independent or the smaller characters.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we still occasionally will do Batman or a Superman, like a major, but you know, we like doing Jack of Hearts and Werewolf by Night and Moon Knight, and you know, and of course we've had a bunch of independent artists. We had Bob Takak in here, and we had Ben Goldsmith.
Nice.
You know, so we definitely support the independent artists as much as we enjoy the major stuff. We enjoy reading about the independent stuff too.
It's important. It is important, and I'll say again, there is a market. There are people out there, a lot of independents who are doing kaiju centric stuff. So again, you know, for the people out there who love Godzilla and they love Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and they love Ultraman and stuff like that, please continue with that. I'm not saying don't read that, because I don't have the power to tell you not to get it. But I'm just saying that there are many of us out there, myself included, who also are putting out some really cool stuff. We feel it's cool, and we hope that you at least take the chance on those products that we're putting out.
Yeah,
and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. And Frankie, are you doing any cons anytime soon?
No. I think the only one I'm going to do is like I'm sticking with Plastic City Comic Con. You know, it's funny because I'm planning on doing a video where I'm going to show all the badges that I got from my con days. I did a lot of cons.
I'm sure you did.
I did a lot of cons, and I'm just like I'm reaching at that time where it's like cons have changed a lot, and I'm loving. I'm starting to love. I'm glad to see the smaller ones. It comes down to nickels and dimes, man. It comes down to the finances, man. Let's be honest. I've been honest. Absolutely. And I'm like, look, you know, for the people who can still go to cons and stuff, more power to you. But if you got to buy some tables and you got to travel and stuff like that, you got to somehow make a profit.
Absolutely.
I mean, hey, I'm just saying, I'm putting that out there. I like smiling. I don't want to have a frown.
Absolutely. At the end of the weekend, you want to make sure that there's a little bit of change to bring home to the honey.
Yeah, I experienced that once at a show, and it wasn't a great feeling. It wasn't. It was like one of those things where, I did a book called Robot God Akamatsu with James Biggie back in 2012, 2013. And we got invited to come down, which was great. We got our tables great, but it still cost us some money for our lodgings and, you know, and just going down for the trip down to Philly. It was for WizardCon. I think it was Wizard. We went in there and it wasn't a con for us. It just wasn't for what we were. And I learned something. That's the experiences like that. You're supposed to learn from it. You have to look at it and go, well, yeah, things are changing. And if you're not really known, like really well known, it may be a hard thing for you, man. Just saying, it could be a hard thing for you. So you gotta pick your battles. There you go.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. You were great. You know,
you guys can have back your ears.
Yeah. And when you got something to promote, you got to hit me up, and we'll definitely have you on again.
Oh, most definitely. Oh,
yeah. And go back to sleep, Daywalker.
I know the Daywalker. I know, man. Losing my power here. Hey, thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you. And I friend requested you on Facebook. Before we went live, you mentioned if we've had somebody on.
I can do that. Wait, hold on.
I forgot the name, but if you can message me the name, we'd love to have your friend on. You know, it's
Casey Color.
Oh, Casey. Okay.
Casey Color. He's the artist for Transformers on IDW.
Oh, nice.
I'll shoot him over. Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Very cool.
There you go. Awesome. It's all about spreading the love, man.
Right.
Spread that love.
Making that TikTok connection, Frankie.
Right on. I love that name, Velvet Joker, too, man. I was like, who's this guy, Velvet Joker?
Well, I cosplayed as the Connecticut Joker for many years, so now we've just transformed. We went for the podcast new.
There you go. Well, that's what I mean. You're using the technology in a different kind of way. Think about it, man. You're able to get out there to maybe millions, thousands, if not millions of people right now. You know, that's a beautiful thing, man. This is what this technology was meant for. Use that.
It's fun.
All right, guys. Time for me to get some nap.
Peace out. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for coming by.
Peace out, man. All right.
Bye.
Keep our phone. Right on.
Oh, that was awesome.
I also just friend requested him right now. So
yeah, he's really cool guy.
I didn't want to.
Great energy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
So Black Adam. I won't spoil anything, but
Yep.
I'd have to say I'm very happy to hear that. Like, I know last week we were talking about the friggin' Rotten Tomatoes score, where it was, oh, it's going to be trash. It's going to be the worst movie ever. And after the opening weekend, it's The Rock's #1 movie. This is like his best opening weekend ever.
Nice.
And it deserves it. I absolutely love it. It's
and again, Leo, and I said this to you yesterday when we talked. I just think that some of the bad press are just from people who aren't comic book fans. Critics are looking at it from a cinematic, a film point, and some of these characters they have here, the lesser known ones, that's the point of it. Is it's to introduce them to a new audience. I mean, we know who Black Adam, Dr. Fate, Atom Smasher, Cyclone, Hawkman are. We know who they are because we've read those stories. The laymen have no idea who the hell these guys are. They just think, oh, look, it's an old James Bond in a blue and gold suit. They're like, what the hell? Again,
and they introduced him with no backstory whatsoever, which I thought was awesome. It's just opening the world, showing that there's more. And when they showed, I'm not going to spoil it, but when they were past the water scene, the collection of
Leo, just stop while you're ahead, man. You're not doing.
Yeah, we don't even know what you're talking about. We don't know what scene.
You're like, there's a water scene.
I'm sorry, Drew. I thought you saw it. Okay.
No, I didn't see it, Leo.
Okay,
I said I was waiting. All right, back to the other news. So we already talked about Quantumania.
Yes.
I have to say, for a second, when I just saw Bill Murray in there, I'm like, oh shit, fine. Like it's just, I feel like in this day and age, it is inevitable that sooner or later, most actors, not all, most, will end up in the MCU in some form or another. It's like the new Hollywood version of Law and Order. Everybody will get, at some point.
Well, and going by the new trailer with the holiday special, did you guys see that?
Yeah. But let's finish off with the first trailer.
Okay.
The next trailer. So, because I thought it started off really fun. It looked like Ant-Man was finally getting his props. People were high-fiving him. Yep. Somebody fucked up and called him Spider-Man, but in general,
Spider-Man.
He looked like he was having a good old time.
Yep. He got the award, and
what's his daughter doing? She's just making stuff, causing trouble in the quantum realm. Right, Drew? Can't trust those girls in the technology anymore.
What on earth?
What was that?
Sounded like Drew got breaking news or something.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, there is more breaking news.
Watching the holiday special trailer.
Were you just finding out about
that? Okay, so Quantumania, Cassie makes a signal down to the quantum
realm, and of course, Wasp Senior freaks out.
Yeah,
and what, they all get sucked into the quantum realm. And then we start hearing what was the music? There was
Yellow Brick Road.
Yellow Brick Road, right?
Elton John, yeah.
Which is interesting because in Werewolf by Night, they also did sort of a Ruby Slippers type of, when the color came at the end, and yeah. So it's interesting that they're going that way again.
Well, I was watching somebody's take on the trailer, and it does seem to be like a Wizard of Oz type of telling,
Mm-hmm.
Real Pro says, did you see the ant-sized version of the Ant-Man trailer? No,
I did not.
All right, I just saw Leo. I just saw the holiday special trailer, and I have one word for this. Yes. Yeah.
So the Marvel universe is now 0 degrees to Kevin Bacon, right?
We've literally entered the this is what's going to create the multiverse. And that's the thing I love about it, is that literally every universe will have a Kevin Bacon. So that's just so many more degrees.
Oh, multiverse Kevin Bacon.
Yes, that's a lot of bacon. That might
So spoilers. If you have not seen the holiday special trailer, do not listen to what I'm about to say. So I'm going to give you like 5 seconds to like pause or turn it off. When you see my mouse stop moving, you can go back on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I just did the countdown.
Okay, so the Guardians go to basically kidnap Kevin Bacon because he's the dance-off machine, and it looks fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it does.
If I have to say, if there's one thing I'm excited about, it's the fact that we're going to have Cosmo and Rocket in the same movie, and in the comic, they are not friends. So
but they're chilling out in the trailer, though. They're chilling out.
That's the thing I'm really excited about. I just want to see some of that comic book animosity. Like, they're going to get together. It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
But oh man, this is going to be good. Oh, I'm so thrilled right now. So, and listen, it's James Gunn. He this man's on a roll.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep this going, please.
Yeah. So, Drew, why don't you just barrel right through? Speaking of James Gunn, you must have heard the news about an hour or two ago.
Oh yeah, the DC. He's in charge of what, DC animation, or
I think all DC superhero related things is between him and.
Yeah, so it's James Gunn named co-head of DC's film, TV, and animation division.
Boom!
Yes. And he is, I'm trying to Peter Safran.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He is the other co-head. He's responsible he was mainly producer of the Suicide Squad, the one that James Gunn worked on, Aquaman, Flatliners, Buried. He's currently working on The Nun 2, The Crooked Man,
cool,
Aquaman, the new Aquaman, and Shazam. He was producer on Peacemaker. He's done a lot of stuff. So yeah, looks like
he's dialed in.
All right, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
So Walter Hamada is out. James Gunn in.
Yeah.
Okay. So listen,
and
we'll see.
With Hamada out, Cavill back in.
Yes, that is the other news. I mean, they're hitting us like 3-4 things every fucking day now. Boom, boom, boom.
And the curl's back.
Cavill's got his curl?
Yeah, he did a TikTok. He said, I couldn't wait till the end of end weekend for Black Adam. He said,
God, not everyone knows. Not everyone knows.
This is his TikTok. This is his TikTok.
All right.
He's saying he wanted. Jeez, it's his TikTok.
Oh, he's mad at you right now.
Jeez. Let me play his TikTok.
But the interesting thing about Cavill coming back as Superman in DC is that we're not going to see him in a movie for at least 2 years. I mean, we might get a cameo, but he's got things lined up.
He does.
You son of a bitch.
Okay, I'm looking for it. I'm gonna find his TikTok.
You know what? One more. No. One more outburst like that, and you're paying all the gas next weekend. Okay? I don't care. I've got to lay down some law with you. Okay? And this is, I know my friends are like, Drew, this is coming from you, the guy who can't keep a surprise to save his life. I could spoil so many things, but I choose not to because I hate when somebody does that. Okay. So lock it up, Leo.
Moving on.
Hold on. I was just explaining his TikTok.
Just move on.
No. Henry Cavill's back as Superman. We got it. Move on.
Yes. And he's bringing back the curl.
Fine. Bring back the curl.
Yeah. So that's a hell of a lot of news. We got new heads at DC.
Yep.
We got the Christmas trailer, Christmas
special,
Guardians special. And It is. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff.
So I don't know. How will we ever have time to just talk about our comic briefly before we have to call it a night?
Right. That comic that I didn't read.
Great. All right, Rich.
Well,
Rich, thanks for coming on. See you next time.
Well, it's okay because our guest didn't have a chance to read it either.
Yeah, he since I didn't get on early, he was not going to be reading it, so he didn't have time. I'm surprised he stayed on as long as he did.
No worries. Well, we can cover it quickly.
I'll listen and eat my dinner.
So basically, the ghost stories. The first, it was a two-parter.
Transformers ghost stories, right, Leo?
Transformers ghost stories, and the first part, it's so I'll just read the synopsis. Hopefully, to put aside differences, Pyra Magna and Optimus Prime asked her to join the traveling to Cybertron, and basically, as they're trying to get to Cybertron, in the background, Starscream saw them show up. He followed them, and he, for some reason, is being followed by the ghost of Bumblebee. And apparently where Pyra and Optimus are talking, that's where Bumblebee died. And Optimus talks about the first time that he met Bumblebee, and it was basically when Optimus Prime was before he was a Prime, when he was a security officer along with Prowl. Bumblebee was a simple courier. He was jovial and he was just fun-loving dude. And he starts having these nightmares, and the nightmares just like compelling him to do stuff. And he ends up bringing these packages like for he like finds a package that was in his dream and delivers it. And one of them turns out to be a bomb. And he's so distraught that he blew something up, that he hurt people, that he turned himself in. And basically, turns out it was the Decepticons that were trying to fuck with him. They were beaming a signal into his brain to kind of like make him crazy. And he was just randomly selected. He said, this gullible guy, we can just fuck with him and get him to, do whatever we want. But they didn't expect him to turn himself in, because he's the good guy, and so that was about it. It was just Optimus and Prowl trying to figure out what was going on, and then they hunt down. It turns out it was Shockwave and Soundwave that were behind it all.
Those bastards.
Yeah. Drew, did you have a chance to read it?
Yes, I did indeed, sir.
And what did you think?
I thought it was a decent read. I did throw me off a little bit because, I'm not as well versed in Transformers as I am other things. So it like Bumblebee being dead, I was like, what the hell? When did this happen? And they're talking about stuff like, I was like, my God, he wasn't a Prime from birth. I was like, he was just some sort of beat cop. Like, what the hell is this? The zombie Transformers or Cybertronians was an interesting touch. I did like this whole thing of, I believe it was Starscream being haunted by Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Just their little back and forth was cute. Then the same thing with Prime and his ongoing friction with this other Cybertronian over the Matrix. It was a fine read. I'll admit I was a little, because I'm not as big of a Transformers fan as you are, Leo. I'll admit I was a little bored at times, but it still wasn't the worst thing we've read. It was still decent, still moved the story along and whatnot. And then of course the ending where you have Starscream basically explain why he thinks he's being haunted by Bumblebee.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still fine. So
yeah, it's I have to say this is the first Transformers comic that I've read in a long time. Like probably the G1 comics. It's I was a big Transformers cartoon watcher when I was a kid, and obviously the toys. So yeah, I'm not really well versed in the comics. So we should have probably went with your zombie transformer one, but
Yeah.
It happens. We can't always win. Listen, I lost big on that Aquaman Prince of the whatever series, and
Hey! No one's holding that against you, but you totally did.
We don't all pick winners.
It's true.
Every time.
It's true. I'm sure I'll pick something that you guys will hate. You'll be like,
what about the secondary Transformer story? That wasn't any better.
No, I liked the first one better. The second one was really, I found it really dull because I didn't really have a connection with those characters.
Okay.
Yeah. What Leo said.
Yeah, it was all, Transformers. I had no idea their story behind. Yeah, it's just, I didn't care for the second story at all.
Yeah, I agree with Leo on that one. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just, it was just a little dull because we didn't have the context.
Yeah.
So it was just an origin story, and it was like, okay, she lost people, and it's a big deal, and whatever.
Yeah, it was a lot of death, The story after that, which I didn't include on the read, was a little fucked up. A day in the life of Red Alert.
Yeah.
And did you get a chance to read that one? Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little fucked up. I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah, it turns out it's like he's dying, and he's like having like a great day, and turns out that it's them just letting him live his last day before he gets shut off.
Yeah. I was like, what a
That's
downer
sad.
ending. It was basically the Transformers version of Brazil. It was just, you're watching it, and then you think it's a happy ending, and then, oh no, this is an ultimate downer.
Yeah. And he realizes it at the end. He goes, I'm dying, aren't I? It's okay, you can turn me off. And yeah.
But
wow.
it is what it is. Like I said, it can't all be winners, but that, I think, Leo, again, the reason you kept it a little small this week is because you knew we're having a guest, and we want to make their time about them. So it's all good,
Yep, totally.
And hopefully next week it'll all be all of us back together. So all four of us.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but our wayward Jar Jar has to make sure to tend to his flock.
Yes.
It's the fall, so it's harvest time, bitches.
That's right. He's trimming every day. He's getting that trim.
Yep, he's the best unofficial special gardener we know.
So you guys want to crowbar or Magnetron or Cybertron this bitch?
Yeah.
Leo, we'll just all spark this one.
All spark it? Okay.
Yeah, we'll all spark it.
You don't want to do the Matrix of
No. I'm going with the Transformers I know, which was it was an all spark. I'll just start. Honestly, I'd say maybe 2.5, 3, because again, not bad. But I did really prefer the Meeting Bumblebee story, because it did have some horror elements there. I thought the other story, like you said, Leo, was good, but I'll admit I kind of had to push myself through that. And then that Red Alert, I was like, wow, this is just great, but what the fuck, a down ending. So I'm gonna pull a Rich. I'm gonna go with the 2.73532.
There you go.
Okay.
Buy that for $1.
You know what? I think I'm gonna go with judging the two stories together. I'm gonna go with a 2. I mean, the Bumblebee story was good. You definitely had some great interaction with him and Starstream. And he's just an upbeat dude. But yeah, the story just didn't get it for me. So I'll do 2 dead Optimus Primes.
Oh god damn! Like the original Transformers. Wow.
Nice.
I mean, Leo, were you that kid were you like that scene in the Goldbergs where after the end of the movie, he's like, no, he's going to come back. He's going to come back.
Yeah.
The movie's over. No, he's coming back though.
Dude, you don't realize that was all of us in 86. That fucked up a whole generation of kids. You know, it's
they had to make way for the new toys, Leo. They had to, you know.
I know, but to kill so many Autobots, you know, it's and the Decepticons, they just got transferred into different, you know, like Megatron didn't die. He got transformed into Galvatron. The Skywarp and the others just got transformed into Sweeps. And
Leo, save it for the different podcast. Okay, calm down. Okay, save it for your as of yet pitched podcast trauma cost. You know, trauma cast. There you go. That's what it is. There you go. You just talk about moments in comics and film and TV that just wrecked you. All right, cool, Leo. You got toys. We got it.
Yep.
All right.
We'll wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. You know, definitely go check out Frankie B Washington. All his information is shown us up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. For me, just Google Leo Pond. I run Dorkening Podcast Network. We got a ton of awesome people doing a ton of awesome stuff. Head on over to thedorkening.com. You can see all the episodes there. And we'll kick it off with Velvet Joker.
Good evening, and I agree. You should definitely check out Frankie B Washington's art, especially if you're on TikTok. Just look him up. His art is really good. He's got a really awesome style, and he puts regular videos out there of his artwork. So it's me, your man, Velvet J, a.k.a. Rich Davis, a.k.a. the Throwback King, here every Tuesday on the award-winning Splash Pages, a comic book club podcast. And good night.
Mr. Drew.
See, he already went to sleep. He agreed with me. Good night.
I did totally agree with you. Good night. You can find me wherever. You know, we say it every week. You know how to find me. Reach out. I promise you I'll say at least hello. Right now, leave me alone. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, he'll send you a middle finger emoji.
Ghostbuster Man 1984. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Forever.
Bye.